All right, the Mitchell Defense GWOT Doc. All right, welcome back everybody. So the Mitchell Defense GWOT Doc in the new ambi bolt release version. So every once in a while you seem to find a very nice rifle built with very high QC and made with all of the primo materials that you are looking for in a hard use style rifle from a newer or a smaller company that actually doesn't suck. The crew over at Mitchell Defense are all GWOT veterans of the global war on terror, hence the name, the GWOT Doc. And surprise, surprise, it has Doc in the name because the owner was a corpsman with all of his buddies in the MARSOC flavor of the Marine Corps. Now in 2025, there is an endless sea of cheap ARs out there in the market. Everything with poor machine work, inferior materials, oversized gas ports, and a slew of other quality control issues. So in that market, as we go through the Mitchell Defense GWOT Doc, we're gonna talk about what sets this rifle apart, not only in the quality control, but the materials that go into it that sets it apart from budget or cheap setups and puts it in the category where I think it really does belong. So I first heard about Mitchell Defense about a year ago from a buddy of mine. I was at his office and he had nothing but good things to say about it. I picked it up, messed around with it a little bit, and it seemed to be very, very nice. And he is someone who I really trust when it comes to knowing his rifles. So I got to meet them at SHOT Show 2025 in January, talked to them about their build process, kind of the lineage of why they started building rifles, the materials that go into it, all of them being MARSOC and ex-GWOT Marine guys. I figured, okay, probably pretty good. They've got some good use under their belt. So I reached out to them and asked them to send out their 14.5, which is this version right here, because I'm a huge fan of 14.5. You maintain really good ballistics. You get something a little bit shorter, a little less weight, a little easier to maneuver, especially once you get it loaded up with everything. And overall just seems to be a great fit for like a modern duty or combat style rifle in that length. Now, if you guys would do me a huge favor, please subscribe to the channel. It's really a great way to support what I do here. And if you think you're subscribed, just go ahead and give me that discount, double check on that. And I'd also like to thank all of my Patreons. You guys are absolutely awesome and I appreciate all the support you have given to me. And I'd like to thank Shell Shock Protection as well for sponsoring the channel. They make a really nice ear protection with those gel inserts for over your ears. And they make really good looking ballistic rated sunglasses that you can wear out on the town or out on the range. And if you guys are in need of that stuff, I'll have a link down below with a little code to help you guys out. And if you guys are interested in anything else you see here in the video, I'll have that build list. It'll be the first link in the description down below. And for you brave souls, I'll put a QR code up here in case you are watching this at your employer in the break room, casting it to the TV so everybody can partake. All right, now the range performance on this one. So I got this thing in, checked it out, took it apart, took a look at everything and how they put it together, and then I got it rigged up. I put that Vortex Huey Gen 2 on there, a Surefire Scout, a Die-Frico Tiger Claw, some Walker Defense silicone carbide rail covers, all of which will be over at the build list, but thought this was a nice slick way to set this thing up. Now getting this out there the first range day, got it zeroed up, just ran some static drills with it to get a feel for it. My buddy Chris from 1911 Syndicate got in a little bit of the action just to kind of get a really good feel for how this thing was going to perform just static out there on the range. Now let's talk about gassing and recoil first. So this thing recoils very nicely and is gassed just in the middle where I like them to be. Now I've heard this come back around as it seems to do about every 5 years or so when you get a bunch of new owners out in the market. They'll talk about, oh, the barrel's over ported so it'll run more ammunition in more dirty or austere environments. Now I hate to break your hearts, but an oversized gas port is not a feature, that's a liability. Now there is a range that a gas port size could be depending on the length of the barrel, the length of the gas system. And if you get towards the higher end or go over that, you could run into some problems, right? Because remember, if you're on the high end of that allowable port size, that gas port is going to erode over time, allowing more gas into the system. Now, if you have too much gas going back in there or they've overported it to run like an H2 or an H3 to run right, that's going to put a lot of additional wear and tear in your bolt, the cam pin area, the lugs. It could make the cam pin grind into the upper receiver because it's unlocking and locking at the wrong times. That's not a feature, all right? It should be somewhere right in the middle to where it runs really good, that like 3 o'clock ejection on like nice ammunition, like 77 grain, 69 grain self-defense ammo, and then maybe runs a little softer on like that practice ammunition. The stuff that I like to use is that Badlands 5.56. They've got insane quality control. They're my boys out here in Arizona. If you're interested in that stuff, I'll have info over at the build list for you. But just think about that a little bit when you buy a rifle. If this thing is ejecting violently and has crazy recoil and needs like a huge buffer in the back and a heavy spring, that probably means the barrel was ported because it was just poorly manufactured. I really like to see an ejection no more than 3 o'clock. And I mean 3 o'clock on my best ammunition, my high pressure ammunition. And then when I'm running more basic loads, some cheap range ammunition, I like to see about 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And that generally means that when I put a can on, I'm gonna get a really nice ejection, kind of maybe a little bit forward. But since it's not a dedicated gun with a can, I know that that's not going to put wear and tear on the system to make everything blow out earlier than it should. So that being said, this gas port is right where I like it, with an H1 buffer between 3 o'clock and a little bit less when I'm using the cheaper ammunition, which is what I like. Now this also comes with a Geissele SSA trigger in it, which is a 2-stage, and Geissele just makes great triggers. I am more of a fan of the single stage triggers, but after running this thing for 1,000 rounds, I came to appreciate that 2-stage trigger a lot more than a standard mil-spec trigger, and I don't think there's anybody that can disagree with that. It has B5 furniture on it, which is among my personal favorite. It feels great, it's tough stuff, and it's gonna do everything you need it to do. The rifle comes in at approximately 6.6 pounds, making it easy to move and maneuver even when loaded down with your optic, a light, and some other accessories like, a foregrip or something like that. The controls on the rifle are all solid choices. It has an ambi safety selector, an ambidextrous charging handle, which are made by Radian, which to me, it's just the best stuff out there, so why try and reinvent the wheel? It also has an ambi bolt release, which operated very smoothly right out of the box, which is not always the case with ambidextrous controls. The integral trigger guard and flared magwell are very nice touches on that billet lower, just making it feel a little bit cleaner where my hand gets up in there under the trigger guard and making magazine exchanges a bit easier. The rifle has an extremely solid feel to it. No excessive wobble, no loose fit to the upper and the lower. It just felt solid. The rail's got 7 sides of M-LOK, which allows you to mount any accessory pretty much exactly where you want it without being bulky or excessively heavy. The gun runs fast and the gun just runs flat, whether it was suppressed or unsuppressed. On the last day I had this thing out on the range, I did a lot more movement to really get a feel for this thing as a fighting rifle. I did a bunch of additional drills and the rifle just performed. I'm well over 1,000 rounds on this rifle at this time, and it has had 0 issues running any of the ammunition, whether it was my Badlands practice ammo or my self-defense ammo. But this is another reason why I only run quality ammunition. This is like anything else. You put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out. So it runs 100%, it feels good, it seems to be built right, but what sets this thing apart? Besides the performance, it's the QC and the materials inside of this rifle that really do separate it from a lot of other things out there in the market today, especially when it's in that like 1,500 to 2K point, right? Because that's where a lot of these really hard use rifles with really good components are gonna be at. The materials are all US made and US sourced. The upper and the lower are 7076 machined. They are anodized and then Cerakoted, with the lower being an ambi bolt release. It does have a tension screw in the lower, but I found the fit to not really need any adjustment on that at all. The upper is thermal fit to the barrel extension to help improve accuracy. There are a couple of different barrel options here. You can get a 416R nitrided barrel, you can get a chromoly vanadium barrel, you can get a cold hammer forged barrel, and you can get a proof barrel if you've got that big money. This specific version has the B.A. Hansen barrel in it because I didn't want to put him out too much when he sent it to me. But in my opinion, get the cold hammer forged barrel. It's just going to overall be a better barrel. And I think those ones are made by Centurion. And then of course, if you're doing more of a accuracy style setup, then the proof barrel might be the way to go, but you're going to drop some serious coin there. So for the $100 difference between the B.A. and the Centurion cold hammer forged, it's well worth it. When it comes to the bolt and carrier group, the carrier is going to be 8620. The bolt is Carpenter 158 with a billet 4140 steel gas key, all of which are properly hard chromed on the inside. The gas key has aux screws and is properly staked. It is MPI inspected to ensure that structural integrity, and then it is all coated in Armor Lube DLC. Now at their website, they go through like every material that everything down to the firing pin is made of and coated in, which most companies aren't gonna tell you. So if you wanna peruse that and check it out to see every little detail, you can do that. The buffer tube is their enhanced version with a flat wire spring and an H buffer in the back. Now, since the platform doesn't like me giving direct cost factors here, let's just say well under 2K on this setup, right? Now, is it worth it? And this is really going to be somewhat dependent on how and what you expect from your rifle. And we have to remove all the budget or cheap stuff because generally cheap isn't good and good generally isn't cheap, right? We have to compare apples to apples, material for material, and QC to QC, because this is much more in line of like BCM, DDM4, like Daniel Defense V7, something like that. This is really where this rifle sits as far as the quality of the components and the QC. So it ain't no Bear Creek Arsenal setup, right? But there's a difference between a hard use rifle and a hobbyist rifle, right? Not to say that either is bad, it depends on what fits your needs. If it's a hobbyist rifle and it sees 500, maybe 5,000 rounds a year, yeah, maybe you don't need something crazy. But if this is a rifle that's gonna see 5, 10, 15,000 rounds a year, you need to start getting those quality materials so the rifle actually lasts and you're not replacing bolts and everything else in there every 5,000 rounds because you bought an inferior setup. If you are looking for a hard use rifle, I think this absolutely fits in line with the other names that I've already mentioned based on the materials and everything that's gone into this, and of course the way that it performed out there on the range. Ultimately, you have to make that decision, but again, like I said up front, it's really nice to see kind of a newer or smaller company that maybe you hadn't heard of that's actually building things to the standard of the bigger names out there like BCM, Daniel, Geisley, all those setups, while giving you all the controls you want from like Radian, Geisley trigger, B5 furniture, and just an overall solid built rifle. Because everything is definitely not made the same. Make sure you get subbed up to the channel, keep doing it on the range, and remember, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready.